So I actually already recorded this video once, but my mic died on me, but I'm persevering to get it to you. So this is your sign to be resilient with whatever's coming your way. Now, let's talk about self-sabotage, because that's the topic of today's video. And I wanted to talk about it because I honestly consider myself to be someone who has a healthy self-esteem, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, mainly because I've been working on myself for quite some time now. And so a lot of the huge self-sabotaging patterns and tendencies that I used to have years ago, I've let go of, alhamdulillah. And this might be relevant to you as well. Like, you're a woman who's discovered inner work a long time ago, and you became passionate about taking care of yourself and working on yourself, improving your mindset. But at times, you catch yourself putting yourself in situations where something is off, you're disrespecting yourself, and you're blocking your growth. And this is the subtle self-sabotage that still happens even when we're working on ourselves. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. What I wanted to start with is some examples of how that showed up in my life in recent years. I'll start with the professional side of things. One thing that I used to do a lot is hire people in my company that I knew inevitably would not be a good match for the company. Like, I kind of knew it, but I still would go ahead and let these people in. And even worse, I would wait way too long to let them go. And this would sabotage the growth of the business and also my role as a leader of my company. That's an example of self-sabotage in my professional life. Another one in the same field is when it comes to content creation, for example. I know exactly what I have to do, how I have to do it, but sometimes I stop myself. I procrastinate for way too long to press the record button and to just do it. In my personal life, self-sabotage would show up especially in relationships where I would put myself in relationships where I was not valued, I was made to feel unimportant, and I would betray myself constantly, and I would feel like my boundaries were being crossed all the time. And the question is, even if we work on ourselves and we become women who have incredible self-awareness and who often can give incredible advice to other people, why do we keep sabotaging ourselves in these subtle ways? And the reason for that is because deep down, there's still a side of us that holds on to irrational beliefs that make us act these ways that are not beneficial to our growth. And today I want to tell you about how I've managed to keep self-sabotage at bay and how I've been helping my clients do so as well. And I'm using a framework. There's plenty of frameworks out there, but I'm going to share the one that has worked with us. This framework is basically following 3 simple steps. Step number 1 is identify the triggering event. Step number 2 is identify the self-sabotaging belief. And step number 3 is challenge that belief. So let's get deep into each point. Identifying the triggering event is as simple as saying, okay, what started all this situation? So in the example that I gave you at the beginning with hiring the wrong people, it started with someone asking me to hire them. In the example of me procrastinating on putting content out there, the triggering event is that I have to put content out. And in the example of relationships, the triggering event is me feeling disrespected. That's what triggers this whole process of feeling like self-sabotage is around the corner. Now, the next step is identifying the self-sabotaging belief. And all you have to do in order to do that, when you are in that moment where you can feel like you're blocking your own growth, is ask yourself, what are the beliefs that I'm holding on to that led me to this situation? So for the work thing that I mentioned earlier, the beliefs that I was holding on to sounded like, if someone asks me for a job, because I'm in this blessed position, I have no choice but to say yes. If I don't say yes, I'm a bad person. When it came to letting go of people who were not performing well and who were not a good match in my company, the limiting belief here was, if I fire people, I'm a terrible boss. And again, it's this whole thing of like, I'm a bad person. I'm not going to be liked. If we go really deep, it's all about being liked all the time. When it comes to content creation, for me, it was, if I put something out there, it has to be perfect. Otherwise, I am going to be judged, criticized, and maybe rejected. And again, not going to be liked. And in relationships, often the belief at the core of this problem was, I have to work hard in order to be loved. This might hit hard for you right now, and it might take you back to your childhood, because this is most probably where those beliefs were formed. But don't despair, there's a way to get rid of them, alhamdulillah, no matter how long you had them. And that's the next step, challenging the belief. So how do we do this? There's a few questions that you can ask yourself. And the first one is this really true? Is this belief that I'm holding on to and that I've been holding on to for probably most of my life really true? And your mind, your brain is going to try to convince you that yes, indeed, this is true, because this is how you've been seeing the world for a very long time. This is how you've confirmed to yourself that things are, because you've been putting yourself, you've been attracting situations that confirm this belief to you. That's how the brain works, by the way. The brain will show you exactly what you believe, but you have to challenge it and think about it in a rational way. Like factually, scientifically speaking, is it really true that I'm a bad boss? Is it really true that I don't deserve love unless I work really hard for it? Is it really true that I'm not creative, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not a good person, that I have to say yes to everything? And if you're really honest with yourself, no, it's not. And the second question in this framework will help you dismantle this initial limiting belief, because the second question is, do you have evidence of the opposite being true? So do you have evidence that you are a good boss? And alhamdulillah, in my case, I think, yes, I do. Do you have evidence that it's okay to make mistakes when you post content? Do you have evidence that you do deserve to be loved without having to hustle for it? And when you do this exercise, alhamdulillah, it really shows you that this initial belief that you've been holding on to for way too long is actually not the truth. And then the next thing that we need to do is ask ourselves, well, what's going to happen if I keep this limiting belief, this self-sabotaging belief that is leading me to stopping my growth? And I know this is painful to sit down and to journal on this question or to think about it, but you need that pain in order to create a very strong catalyst for change. So if you sit down and you ask yourself, okay, what's going to happen if I stay in this relationship where I don't feel fulfilled, I don't feel valued, I feel hurt and pain on a constant basis, and I'm triggered all the time and I'm on edge and I don't even feel loved? Well, if you stay there, you're never going to experience what it's like to actually be loved without having to constantly chase that love and work hard for it. You're not going to know what it's like to be loved, to just be you. And that's sad. Similarly, in your professional life, if you keep on believing that you're a bad boss, if you don't let go of people who aren't right for your company is going to fail. It's never going to grow. It's never going to become what you want it to be. And your image as a leader is going to be tainted. And you might not even be able to stay a boss for a very long time if you keep on leading with that mindset. And if you keep on believing that everything has to be perfect before you post it or you put yourself out there, then you're never going to put anything out there. So you have to sit with that pain in order to want something different for yourself. And that's where the next question comes. And that question is, what do I want to create from here? What empowering belief do I want to replace this limiting belief with? And the easiest way to do this is write down the initial limiting belief and then write the opposite. So if you believe that you're not good enough, then it becomes I am good enough, actually. If you believe that you need to work hard in order to be loved, then you're going to write down I am lovable without having to hustle for breadcrumbs. Simply put, and so on and so forth. Like, I can be a good boss and still make difficult decisions of letting go of people. And the final step in this process is probably the most difficult one, but it's to practice saying and embodying that new empowering belief that you've just come up with. And at first, that's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel like an imposter. You're going to feel like you're lying to yourself. But it takes that level of discomfort to actually become a better version of yourself. Like, this change does not happen overnight. For the past 30 years or plus, you've been believing that you were not worthy of good things. So it's not going to take a snap of the fingers to believe the opposite. And that's why it's uncomfortable to step into this new version of yourself, the one who believes that you're worthy. But with time, I promise you that the self-sabotaging tendencies are going to end, and you will show up as if this empowering belief was you all that time. And that is a beautiful thing to witness, actually. This is how I got rid of my big self-sabotaging tendencies as well as the smallest one. And sometimes you have to keep on redoing this exercise. Again, healing is not linear. Sometimes you think you've learned the lesson and you actually haven't. Again, you feel like you're coming back to square zero, but this exercise is just intemporal. I don't think that's a word in English, but it's timeless. So whenever you feel like you're really being an obstacle to your happiness, come back to these questions and journal on them. That's it. I hope this was beneficial. This is what I've been using on myself and on my clients for ages, and alhamdulillah, it's really made a big difference in their lives. Let me know if this felt relatable to you in the comments below, and how you're gonna apply it on like which triggering event you're gonna apply this framework, inshallah. I'll see you in the next video, beautiful. Ma salama.
Et ouais, je suis trop fière de toi, Bnitia. Le chemin que tu as parcouru, il est bien. Le chemin, saïb, mais tu as surmonté tous les obstacles. Je suis trop fière de toi, Bnitia. الله يسهل عليك والله يعاونك والله يحفظك انتي وبنتك.